Welcome back to the HGC. We are going to be doing our final match here on this Friday for the European side of the Euros Global Championship, and we've got an interesting one coming at you. My name is Trixer. Over there we got Caldor. Caldor, Trick and Method. Who's going to win it?
I still believe that Trick, when nothing's on the line, performs better than in any other setup. It really feels like once the pressure is off, Trick is just unleashed. They play for fun and all of a sudden everything works.
Yeah.
If there's a lot on the line, they feel pressured and they make mistakes that they usually wouldn't make and things go awry a little bit. So I would say this is for Trick going to be a pretty interesting setup. Pretty good one for them. At the same time, though, I'm still waiting for the day where Method again flips the switch and all of a sudden just like starts dominating.
Because we know they're capable of it. That's for sure. I mean, let's go ahead and look at the standings here and see why Trick really doesn't have any pressure eluding here for them, as they are currently at the #6 spot. They can't fall into the Crucible, so it doesn't matter. They don't have to win to stay out of that, and they can't move up here before next week. So Trocled Esport with that 5-8 record, just looking to make sure to have a decent game today, and that's usually where we see them just completely pop off.
Yeah, at this point, they're not really putting too much on the standings there. They're saying we're in the playoffs. We want to learn as much as we possibly can. They talked about this last week extensively. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for it because I feel there could be a few things coming out. Teams are also already looking towards the playoffs and trying to experiment a bit. Okay, what we can we get away with? What's with new heroes? Well, I mean, we've seen quite a few things coming out over the last 2 weeks. I mean, we've seen Ana, we've seen Reina all of a sudden coming in. We've seen a couple of Atanis. So there's Samuro, of course. So there's like a lot of play where teams are really trying to figure out, okay, what can we use in the HGC environment? And also, of course, try and throw off their opponents a bit for the playoffs.
We'll see what exactly you're going to be watching today. Let's go ahead and check out the schedule, and we're going to see if we get those new heroes popping in for our teams. Earlier, we watched Dignitas take on Zealots, and let's be honest, it was a bit of a stomp. Dignitas shuts down Zealots with a 3-0, a couple of 2-level leads in certain scenarios, and we'll be getting ready for Trocled Esports and Method for our second European match of the day.
And of course, now later on, Simplicity going up against Team Freedom, and Gale Force Esports up against Tempo Storm North America.
Tempo Storm is looking to secure their ticket to the MSB. If they win against Gale Force Esports today, they will auto-qualify to the mid-season brawl. So a big match to watch out for on your Friday evening. Have some pizza. Be ready for that one, as that'll be a fun one to watch. Gale Force Esports also one of these teams that when they want to show up, they can show up too. So today might be fireworks for them.
I mean, for Gale Forces already, I feel, given the situation that they were in when they started the season right now, I feel it's already a pretty decent spot for them. They can't fall in the Crucible. They performed really well in a lot of the games they had. So yeah, from their point of view, probably everything pretty all right here. Michael's still running his private stream there as well, aiming for the #1 spot. Apparently he wants to challenge Snitch with 20,000 points in the Grandmaster League, but I don't think he has reached that just yet.
He got a perm too,
on
stream. Udall. Changing life right now. Let's go ahead and get ready here for our second series of the day. As it looks like we're ready to go straight into the battleground. Game #1. Sky Temple will be the map, as Trocled Esports has it. We're gonna have Method with the first pick on the opposing side.
Yeah, Sky Temple is pretty decent for Trick. They have a 4-2 track record here. When we're looking towards Method, they have only a 50% win ratio. It's nothing like too crazy that stands out, but definitely a bit better for Trick in the setup. The maps that have been banned, just ban out your opponent's strongest map, and especially in the case of Trick, banning out Dragonshire. That makes a lot of sense, since Method is really good on Dragonshire. 5-1, so very impressive stats on that map with the rotations and with the macro sense that they have, so Trick is just getting rid of it.
Now, I mentioned in the last series, but now that we're finally here, Thorough with Samuro. Something you have to worry about here on this battleground. Nande and him are the two that are currently playing Samuro here in the HGC, and it's been pretty successful for our teams. Nande not quite getting those wins, but showing what a nuisance it can be.
Yeah.
Especially if you're able to get an advantage on a fort or a keep. You really feel pinned down on your side of the map, and Samuro just never lets up.
And of course, we can still also see what exactly Trick has up their sleeves, because as we said before, with them not feeling too much pressure, they usually bring in the ideas, they just switch a talent here and there every now and then, or another heroic ability. Judgment all of a sudden are starting to be extremely aggressive. Judgment was played now by them 2 weekends in a row, once with Remaball in the main tank position. That didn't really work out too well with the coordination, but then when they brought it back the week after and had Alex on Tyrael as the offlaner with Judgment, then it worked out quite well for them and they started to pick up the wins.
That they did, so we'll see if they pull those out. We also got Diva last week. You mentioned the Rainer, now that was from Leftovers.
Yep.
But these are these random heroes that could come out. Now, we're not trying to hype you up too much, just trying to prepare you for the chaos that Trick Esports is willing to bring to a series if they're feeling a little bit frisky. And right now, this is the best environment for them to be frisky. We'll see if Method is able to handle them. I am worried about them, though, because last week we saw Schwimpy in the interview, and it felt very low energy, you know, a little bit disappointed. They as a team know that they are capable of more, that they can be better, and it kind of shows whenever they talk about themselves.
It definitely shows. Coming into this, they were expecting to be one of the top 3 teams and definitely rival the top, and they are far cry away from that. They started off strong, but then with the Western clash, and all of a sudden they started to falling apart completely.
Yeah.
And I feel they still haven't recovered yet. They have shown some signs of greatness where all of a sudden they bounce back and they just show how strong they can be if everything works out. But the synergy just isn't there. And you could hear from Schwimpy, he himself was saying, we don't quite know what we can do to change all of this. This is still feeling weird to us. We should be better on paper. This team looks so great. And then when we are in the games, things just don't flow properly. And that's also why I mentioned earlier, if they somehow find a way to flip that switch, they can definitely take any team, but they need that momentum, and currently it doesn't feel like they reliably can get that.
One of the things that they can do to flip the switch is put Nick on someone like Phoenix. He actually was one of the best Phoenixes I saw last week. Being able to work in those auto attacks, dodging out and CC coming his way. Phoenix again fell off a little bit, but on Sunday we're shown how much of a strength he can be if he's put in the right position.
And Method won twice with Phoenix.
Yeah.
So they have a 100% win ratio with him at this point. I mean, 2 games is not really a big sample size or anything, but if you compare that to the rest of the league, where outside of Dignitas, no one else is in that situation. We've been talking about how Phoenix has 5 wins in Europe and 7 losses. It has been changed slightly since Dignitas played him earlier. But with that setup, Method is the most successful team on Phoenix right now, and that is largely because of Nick and how he plays the hero.
See if they can pull it off, man. The teamwork has been great for them. Let's finally jump in here into Sky Temple. It looks like our players are ready to go, and it's time to start the draft.
Okay, so Sky Temple, let's see what the 2 teams are pulling off here right now. When we're talking about Trick, we have seen aggressive plays. Hanzo is again a hero that they absolutely heavily rely on. They played so far 6 times on Sky Temple, and every single time they play on Sky, they are trying to draft Hanzo. They played him in every single game. So there could be something that Method is targeting here, or picking away from themselves.
Don't forget about global play, too. Trick Esports has been showing off that fall stat as of late, and Make has gotten really good on the character, really following up with his Mighty Gus, making sure to be in the position to help out the team.
They played it 3 times here, so in 50% of their games they play Falstad, and they have 2 wins with him on this particular map, and 1 loss. And you're absolutely right, the Falstad plays that we've seen from them have been very impactful, very good control, of course, also of the boss point here in particular. And whenever we are talking about Make, you have to consider maybe banning out even Genji. That has happened against them every now and then, but yeah, Tracer instead is going to be taken away. They have played Tracer once, but yeah, Tracer, of course, we've been talking about this in the previous series, that usually she is a hero that appears a lot. And just in the series between Zealots and Dignitas, it was very interesting to see her not banned out at all, and even picked up once in the last game.
Yeah, Tracer, one of those heroes that if you misstep ever, suddenly you die, and then the rest of your team start falling apart. So want to be careful of that, especially with how explosive Trick Esport can be. Completely fair ban there from Method.
I mean, this is now the moment where you have to think about, okay, what do we ban here? And we've seen a lot of Abathur bans in the past by Trick, but they could even think about Hanzo, because as we said, they want Hanzo, but Method still has first pick, so they could take him away if they feel that the control over Mercenary and bosses and the damage output is enough here. But the ban is going to be against Genji, so they're going to try ban him out. And Maiev as an early pick. Again, as we said last week, she is appearing a lot more. Team Liquid started the trend, Dignitas continued last week, and now Trick very likely going to open this up with Hanzo plus X.
Do you grab a tank here? To try and make sure that they don't have the setup they want? Do you try to take away Stukov? Because Stukov is great with Maiev.
Heal would be great, like trying to get at least a heal in the setup. Either you're going into something along the lines of Hanzo and Malfurion or Hanzo and Stukov. I could absolutely see that. They have shown also the tendency to draft their support a bit later and just deviate from Stukov and Malfurion if they have to.
Sure.
But I would at least expect Hanzo to be taken. With how much of a priority it is for Trick Esports and how you can just rush that boss, get those camps, and of course also put the damage in, I would be surprised if that's not the case here.
That's how they slip a lot of their combos too, the Dragon Zero. Malfurion comes out,
And
looking to control there, and is it Hanzo? per usual, or are they going to show us something different?
I mean, they're waiting actually a long time. This could actually be something else here. Phoenix.
Ooh.
Early on again. Okay. I mean, this is interesting because most teams that we've spoken to so far, they always argue that Hanzo is the better Phoenix. That from most of the outputs that he has from the mobility, that we see that he just excels in that spot and is a bit better. And there are very few reasons to pick Phoenix over Hanzo, but in this setup right now, Trocled is willing to go down that path again. Now, they played with Phoenix already. They played twice with him. Same amount of games that we've seen on the side of Method. Trocled has won a single game with him, lost one. And now the question, of course, how Method reacts to this.
That's what I'm wondering, too. I can see you take Phoenix away because you don't want to have the combination of Maiev into a Purification Salvo. And that could be something you're thinking about, especially with how well Nick performed last week. So thinking about taking away a tool from your opponent. But now you still have two options for Method. You can go into Hanzo, which Dragon Zeros are easy to follow, but Maiev goes in for the engage. You can also pick up Junkrat too, which can be great with the Maiev. It's a combo that we have in the Eastern Clash a lot, or the Eastern side of the world.
Yeah, and they already played on this map quite frequently with Junkrat, but also in Nubarak. In Nubarak, they played 3 times here out of 4 games, and they only won a single one of them. But now we have an immediate combo of Blaze and Nubarak. So having a good side laner here, having a very... I mean, he's still very aggressive with that, but a very melee-heavy setup with Maiev, Nubarak, and Blaze already being drafted here, so we're still lacking the support and we need the damage dealer. And that's why immediately Hanzo is being hovered as a potential ban from Tric's perspective, since he, of course, fills that role of a single range damage dealer, of a single range carry that you can choose in a setup like this.
Now, I was wondering about the Stukov ban here for Trick Esports, since they already have Malfurion, but they're thinking about Hanzo as a possible ban for them.
I like the damage dealer a lot.
Yeah?
I mean, you can target both. You are absolutely correct, because with the setup that Method has, Stukov would also really shine in the setup here. But you still have to think about, okay, what's going to be the damage dealer, the range damage dealer. And the first thing when you look at what we have at this point is you go immediately Hanzo. So taking him away and forcing Method into a different option, I would absolutely understand that choice.
Well, looks like they're going to pull the trigger on it as Hanzo is banned out. For Method, are you looking to take out Frontline? Anything you're terrified of? No, they're going to take out the Medivh. Medivh will not be available here for Trick Esport.
Yeah, with Trick, I'm still a little bit suspicious if we're going to see that X Factor. If Phoenix is already exactly that.
Enough,
but
yeah.
Yeah, but let's see how they're going to play. So far, when we've seen Trick play on the map, especially when we're looking at their front line, they played a fair amount of games with Diablo here. And I feel this is maybe also one of the reasons why Medivh was banned out, because if you, with this setup, go into a Medivh Diablo immediately, then you have a lot of combos available to you. Not only the Leyline, Sealant, and Apocalypse, you can walk up with Malfurion, get that Twilight Dream in. Phoenix, of course, can set up for the Purification Salvo right afterwards. So banning out Medivh was a pretty smart move by Method to just shut that down completely right from the get-go.
Yeah, River's been showing a lot of that Diablo. I'm wondering if we're going to get some ETC, though, or Johanna. ETC to kind of help out with the engagement coming from Method. You want to be able to escape, but also to keep your teammates alive with being able to knock them back.
Especially Phoenix. I mean, we've been talking, when the double support meta was so prevalent, we always talked about ETC and how he can keep Rala alive, for example.
Yeah.
That was incredibly important, because with ETC, with your, you can't just simply push targets away the entire time. Once you have the level 4 and the level 13 talent, you get the cooldown reduction as well. So you're just simply sitting there with your face melt the entire time and you just create space. And that's really important for Phoenix too. Since yes, he has warp available, but once he gets locked down, then he is extremely squishy. So you need to be able to just peel for him, and that's where ETC of course excels.
This has to be the Stukov here, right? Help out with ETC, immediate follow-up from Maiev, Nubarak can engage, you have Root, CC available.
I mean, you would expect it for sure.
Yeah.
Like Stukov to be taken here, unless you feel the need for cleanse.
True. You have ETC, you have Malfurion, cleanse could be helpful.
Yeah. But with Maiev, of course, it's one. And I mean, with any kind of stun, doesn't really matter what it is, you always jump immediately to the potential Stukov play. And Method, I mean, the problem with Method is they are really not good with Stukov. They have played Stukov 6 times and lost 5 out of those 6 games. So they don't really are in a position where you would say immediately, okay, Stukov is a choice. And they go away from it. Okay. They actually head into Karazim instead, apparently just acknowledging that Curson does not really excel with the hero like some other teams do.
Greymane and Karazim, so they have their own blow-up comp if they want. Maiev engage, Curse Bullet, even go for the throw here to help kill Phoenix if you get through his shields with Karazim to help follow up. Method looking to put some pain on Trick Esport.
Karazim is, by the way, just to also put this slightly in perspective, we've talked a bit about how Stukov is not really a good hero for them, historically speaking. Karazim, they've only played it twice, they lost both of the games. So it's not only that they're saying, hey, we give Stukov up because we don't really have the track record with Stukov, we feel that we are not really playing well around the hero, and then they go into another one where they just excel more, where they feel more confident in or more comfortable with like the playstyle. So with Karazim, they just make another choice with a hero where they haven't picked up a lot of wins, but they really just feel, okay, this is the setup that makes the most sense for our composition. And I mean, it starts to really scream dive here.
And Thrall will be our final pickup for Trocled Esport. Okay. Looking at compositions here. I like the engage, I like the dive here from Method, especially with it being a team fight battleground, especially around those shrines. It looks pretty strong for them. But Trocled Esport, they have tools that if they're able to get through that initial frontal damage that comes out from their opponents, they should be able to turn around pretty well, especially Thrall in particular. If he goes for the Earthquake, should be able to control that.
Yeah, I mean, with the setup, even if you don't into Earthquake, if you go into a Sundering, as long as you shut down the attempt that we see from Method and you do that once, then it's going to be really tough for them to stand through this. So I like what we're seeing for Trocled. I really think it's a good setup. It's always a question, can you keep Phoenix alive? But with how Nick has played so far, I don't put that past him at all.
Well, it's actually going to be Crosby here playing Phoenix, because Trocled Esport's me running there, so we'll have to see if he plays defensive enough. As Nick will be looking for the aggressive Greymane plays. Greymane, he's popped in here and there. He's still one of these just good all-around heroes, right? His heroics, both of them good for trying to find those kills, or of course, burn down tanks.
I mean, you have a lot of blow potentially.
Yeah.
So especially Ramabola needs to be careful on ETC that he doesn't overstep, because if he does at any point, he might be in trouble. But this is definitely a setup where I can totally see Trocled do well.
Let's see if they can do it here as we're getting ready for Sky Temple, game number 1 of this best of 5 series. Trocled Esports, will their coordination be on point? Will Method be able to find their identity? It's been missing for the last couple of weeks, but they've been working hard and trying to reclaim it and get it back here. And we need to see it too, because remember, next week, it's playoffs.
Yeah, with a bit of confidence here today, that would also be awesome for Method if they can carry that confidence into then the playoffs for the mid-season ball and maybe still get past Team Liquid and secure that 3rd spot for themselves.
Oh man, I'm actually ready for the playoffs. I want to see how these go off right now. We have 2 days this weekend in week number 10. Day 1 about to finish up, day 2 tomorrow, and then of course the playoffs start next Friday. Let's go ahead and focus on this series though as we head into game number 1 on Sky Temple. Trocled Esports taking on Method.
And Trocled starting off to the left here with Marker on Thrall, Crosby on Phoenix. We have Alex the Pro G on Leoric, Remaballer on ETC, and Garan Paquete on Malfurion.
On the right in the red, Arcaner on Nubrak, Ethereal Maiev, Curson on Karazim, Schwimpy on Blaze, and Nick to show off some Greymane.
Alright, this is really going to be mainly about, for me personally at least, about how Phoenix is going to run the show here and also the impact that Alex is going to have.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Have you noticed this, by the way? Ethereal is playing the Maiev, Schwimpy on Blaze? Interesting.
You just announced it.
I did announce that. But sometimes you just go on a rhythm, right? You get the announcement done, and then you start thinking about your next slot.
Nah, like I've actually seen it, but I don't really think that it's a problem in any way. I mean, we have seen a lot of that stuff where we've seen the offlane and also like the any kind of melee assassin play between the two of them. And in the past, Ethereal has already shown that he can play that, so it just feels like one of those comfortable things where they're saying, hey, who feels more comfortable in which slot?
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, coming back to Trocled for a second, Alex has been talking about how he feels just really happy to play Leoric again and how it's a hero that he feels very confident on. And that's something that he has to showcase right now. He is, of course, that solo laner that's going to try and have that impact on the bot lane at this point. But once that the 13 and 16 is ready for him, he is going to join a lot of these team fights here. Outside of that, there was always a chance that Thrall would find himself on the solo lane, but Maka is now currently starting to hold the top, whereas we have Alex at the bot lane. So it's basically like 2 heroes that are set on their lanes to an extent, and the other 3, they can roam from the middle to wherever they have to, or take a quick camp, as we're seeing here towards the left side of the map.
And the 3's a really safe 3 too, with River being on the ETC, being able to get out of the fights, Grandma can drop down roots to make sure people are alive, and if Phoenix is ever in trouble, can warp gate away, so a nice setup here for Tricked Esports. And they're just hoping to stay neck and neck in experience, get their quest finished up, and move towards level 4. Speaking about trying to stay alive, though, Maka in the top lane gets hit with a tether, gets pulled back, and Method find the takedown.
Really good kill, and also it comes at a very nice time when they're just having the wave pushed into the tower, so they can just dive them immediately without taking any damage whatsoever. And they drop one tower, put the other one down to half HP. It was a really good kill against Thrall here, and an important one at that. Taking the side laners out is always great because you just get that lead and experience for yourself, and that is, of course, reflected at this point in the count.
Better bombs online here for Arcaner. Helps out a little bit with wave clear, but also that slow important for any melees that are on the opposing side. And you have one melee in particular that you don't want hitting anyone on your back line, and that's Thrall on the opposing side. So like that level 4 coming in there. Giants pushing in the bottom and getting a little bit of damage on that turret, but Method able to clean it up pretty well as they are rotating as a unit of 3 and making sure that Tricked Esports doesn't get any advantage on the field.
We also have a bit of an adaptation here from Phoenix. Now, the level 1 talent that we're currently seeing here is the mobile offense. Very different Phoenix build from Crosby than what we usually see with the advanced targeting. So with the mobile offense here, it's all about the additional damage that he get after moving unmounted. We have target acquired taken as a level 4 talent. So a very heavy focus on repeater cannon here instead of what we traditionally see. Level 7 is still going to be interesting to me, because normally we're talking about how you're trying to benefit from slows that your team can add, and with Alex on Leoric, we already have that slow. With Echo of Elements taken for a marker, it's very likely that we're going to see the 16 talent also taken, so that you try to get the additional slows in, rotate between targets with the double charge that you have after the quest completes on level 1, and that would be something where Phoenix can definitely find a lot of benefit and advantages.
Speaking of benefit, Method trying to get another pick on Make, but Make luckily being behind that skull aura shouldn't take too much damage. He'll tap and turn around and drop down a bit of a chain lightning. Tricked Esport, meanwhile, has grabbed the middle temple. They've also put a lot of pressure on a Nurex, so Nurex had to back up and not really force the fight that he wants, but Arcaner is willing to bite back now with the rest of his team falling behind.
And level 7 talent is already in the hands here for Method, and that of course gives them the slight edge as we are moving into that temple. Up to the top, Shrimpy is collecting the last few shots, and here in the middle, Tricked is still holding their ground as they're trying to go for a Thero on Myf. And thanks to the Wall of the Wardens, he is able to move away, gets out of dodge, and yeah, so far, so good.
That level 7 that you're talking about, combat advantage, going to be picked up anyways here for Phoenix. Anyone that gets targeted here with the slow Plasma Cutter does a little bit more damage.
Tricked is actually able to grab the last few remaining shots up at the top lane, so they're pushing Shrimpy away on Blaze. Instead, we're seeing Method focusing on the bot lane, where they are pressuring Alex in. And of course, Leoric alone can do very little against these 4. He's still trying to push them back for and hold them for as long as he can, as the rotation of Tricked is starting to move down to the bot lane. But all in all, the situation here for Tricked is really just one designed to put the spotlight onto Crosby later on through those slows. And his entire build is really homing in on it, with that repeater cannon focus on level 1 and 4 and the combat advantage for the Plasma Cutter that he talked about. Everything just designed around attacking slowed down heroes.
Thrall moving into this level 7, getting a little bit more damage, picking Fall Through instead of the Ancestral Wrath that we typically see to help try and burn down tanks.
We've actually seen the same thing also in the last series, where we had it on the side of Dignitas. So also going into that extra damage. And I mean, this is of course another thing. If you have follow through and you really rely on your abilities, that extra charge that you get on the Chain Lightning with the Echo of Elements completed really helps you to get even more damage out during fights.
Constantly procking more damage, helpful there for Tricked Esports. Now, speaking of helpful, Method has experience available for them at the very top left. That fort did go down to a small amount of health, and Blaze will be looking to try and maybe sneak that later on once that second temple comes in. And if they can get that experience at the right time, they can hit 10 before their opponents. However, Tricked is doing a really good job of making sure that they soak all lanes and keep that lane also pushed out, so they can also be at the same 10 as their opponent's about to hit it.
Method with really good rotations against structures. Once again, dropping another tower here. But as you said, Tricked is keeping up an experience. They lost the Fountain at the bot lane, though. That's definitely a problem. But here come the level 10 abilities. Earthquake, again. The slow, of course, fantastic for Phoenix. And outside of that, we're seeing Mosh Pit. We have, as expected, also Entomb taken. Whereas with Malfurion, Twilight Dream is still the weapon of choice in most cases, but we have seen Tranquility come into play more often these days.
Shrimpy in trouble.
Yeah,
Sneaking
great
here
kill.
on the top, and Trick just finds a pick and immediately take him out right before the temples activate in 10 seconds, which means that Trick can mount up and run down there and control.
Yeah, and then now everybody down to the bot lane, already trying to put Remabola into trouble. That's one cooldown burned as we see the 7-sided strike not really getting too much value. Malfurion with a choice, Grandpa moving straight into his Twilight Dream on 10, but now of course still an opportunity to start and go for those shots. Hero is waiting in the side and moves out.
Maka thinking about going in for a kill, but Method now gonna go ahead and play it safe. They have to defend the middle lane. It's been pushed in by the minion wave, and the experience lead is starting to really trickle in here for Tricky Sport, especially while they hold down this temple. Method's gonna need to have to fight pretty soon. Rimmer has the power slide available, and with the new Brock getting hit with a wolf, he's gonna be moving in. Salvo comes out too, hitting 4 members, and the Earthquake to follow up. ETC taken out though.
Yeah, Remabola is down, and Maka needs to move out of the situation here as well. He doesn't have the Ancestral Wrath, so he's fully reliant on Malfurion to keep him alive in these setups. And of course on his own Frostwolf resilience. Grand Paquette, here comes the cage and they're trying to get away, but the follow-up is there. Market barely surviving for now, gets stunned, not up, but he's still able to move away. Crosby on the other hand in the backline, taken down by Nick. So another kill for Method as they increase the kill count to 3 versus 1.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious there that Tricky Sport called, okay, we need to get out. If anyone is able to survive, good, great, we'll see if that happens. But Crosby ought to be able to do so on Phoenix, while Leo went straight to the middle lane and started pushing it in there, trying to put some damage on top of that fort. Schwimpy will get hit here as the Jet Propulsion comes in to body block his escape, trying to stay alive here with the Pyromania and some oil, but it's not enough. Schwimpy gets picked off.
That was actually really well done by Alex. That was really cool. Jet Propulsion is starting to come into play, and it was of course an attempt of him to move away and get just out of the situation, but Alex with the Wraithwalk just barely moves in front of him, drops the ghost, cancels it, and then just gets hit, so that locks Shrimpy into place, can't escape, and then the 3 heroes are just too much for him to handle.
Trick trying to get this 4 here. They want to jump up in experience because they're lingering behind Method slightly, but also thinking about a fight. Without Bunker being available, because Blaze has been picked off, they could have picked someone in. Method, however, has to play safe and hides behind their fort, while Greymane in the top lane is their main damage, and without him, Tricky Esports grabs that 4, and they also move in for Giants.
Phoenix is getting, by the way, a lot of damage out at this point. We have having him at 17,000 K. Doesn't sound like much, but we're only 8.5 minutes in.
Yeah.
And he is by far the top damage dealer in the game at this point. Greymane is the second highest, and he's actually the second highest is Thrall on 13K. Greymane sits at 12,000 right now. So pretty decent job by Crosby so far. And of course, getting that damage in with the attacking the slow targets, having the coordination here is really helping him out with it. The level 13 talents are now more so targeted towards survivability as we have the auxiliary shields, which is, I mean, pretty much the standard on 13. I don't think we rarely see anything else taken here.
That survivability be echoed by Make as he moves into that Frostwolf Grave at level 13 at 15-second cooldown. That gives you a decent amount of health. We're going to see a fight here on the bottom left over the Giants. Tether comes out, but Alex is able to step by thanks to Wraithwalk. Salvo comes out, puts some decent damage on Meth in their back line. But Tricky Esports using a heroic here. He's going to be forced to go through these Giants. With Thrall being in the top lane, there's not much they can do.
And we've talked about the importance of having the synergy on your face melt, but hold your horses here. ETC already trying to set something up here. Could we see something along the mosh pit? Not quite yet. Crosby warps out. Nice entombed by Alex. Coming. Not only the trap, but also, of course, blocking the pathway. They're starting to move in again, but that was a nice escape here by Phoenix in particular. And coming back to ETC, now that we have the 13, the synergy with the level 4's talent on face melt is super important. You can create more space and you have the cooldown reduction. And that's how you can keep Crosby on this Phoenix alive. And Phoenix is weaving the damage in the entire time. Thrall is there. Does he have the Earthquake? He does, and he starts to go in. But Method still surviving for now. Inubarak is low. Market does not have the Chain Lightning, but Alex takes him down. Thrall, on the other hand, is also dead. 1-for-1
trade. Almost 2 there as Greymane takes some damage. Throw goes in with the tether, finds a Crosby. Crosby gets pulled straight on in as Curson goes in and hits him. She'll be with the Jet Propulsion. Will be able to follow up on the initial engage, while Curson, all by himself here, is trying to dash away.
Curson, taken down here as he hits the silence. We have Alex falling too, but Leoric is going to be back soon, of course. Again, the salvo coming out and dishing out the damage against Ethereal and Nick in particular. We saw the bunker come from Shrimpy, but only he entered, and now both of the teams still trying to kite away here. Same time, there's a big wave at the top lane that is pushing against Method now, just reaching the fort as we speak, and that has, of course, the potential to put even more structural damage on, but we have, in terms of objectives, Method now claiming the bottom temple.
Yeah, it looked like Trick wanted to stay a little bit longer, but with the Grandpa Cat running low on mana, they had to escape, wanting to get that top lane pressure from that camp to do a little bit more. Ethereal all by himself here on the bottom right corner, while Alex Aprochi dropping out a pause. Bit of an odd situation here for Method, as they're going to have their Maiev in a position where she could get picked off. Luckily, she should be able to teleport over the wall.
Now, really important, Oh, we're getting a little
dark in
romantic
here.
today. Yeah, where's the
Yeah.
candlelight?
It's all shady up in here,
I
man.
thought you were bringing the candles. Was it my turn?
I couldn't find a flavor that I liked. There was strawberry, there was apple, there was caramel pie, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna buy any.
Yeah, that's a problem that I face a lot. I can't completely understand what you're talking about here. Talking about the spot in the game, we actually saw down at the bottom Temple Maiev already preparing to just move out of that spot. And that actually works because they still have the fort. Without the fort, that would be really tricky because we currently have seen 3 heroes trying to converge onto the bottom temple and sneaking it away from Method. But with a fort still there, they can't dive that deep. So Ethereal, even though he's down to like 30-40% HP, should actually be fine. And we're going to observe that right now. So you can actually see Alex is already there, and he could have moved in and entombed after the move out. The problem is really, or just try to lock her down, slow her down. But with a fort there, you just can't make that happen yet. So they are still attempting to see if they can maybe jump on Maiev, but Ethereal moved back to the Nexus. Now the shots are being secured here. Top lane, on the other hand, is very early going to get pushed too. Method has taken a lead in experience, and this is actually a pretty significant one. They take the level 16 talent.
And now Trick's in a spot where they have to make a decision. Do they go for the boss here? Do they come back to defend? Because already it looks like this keep is going to be picked off, especially with the Temple already shelling away on it. They come back and defend here and leave Thrall and Malfurion to finish up those Giants. They'll grab them. And Trick defends for a little bit, but the Temple is still showing away.
Okay, so here's just a bit talking about what just happened. Why did Method go for this? The reason is actually pretty simple. Method realized how many heroes were at the bot lane. They didn't have vision on the bot lane, but what happened is that their own wave pushed very heavily through the top lane. So at that moment, Trick had no view of the top lane whatsoever. They had no vision. So Method simply said, we move in and start attacking the top keep, and because they don't see us moving towards the keep, their reaction is going to be slow. So they just stay there, and once they see a hero approaching, they immediately move back. And with Cocoon still available, they have no problem disengaging. So that whole thing was just them realizing all of a sudden, hey, we have full lane control of the top lane. They will never see if we move onto the keep, so we can put some extra damage on it, and maybe with the help of the temple at the top, even take it down. So it was a super smart move when they realized that they had an opportunity there.
It's a game of vision that Method won, and now Method looking to force a fight here. Alex Aproji steps up. Ethereal is able to get over the wall just kindly here. As for Esports was willing to fight, being on 16-16.
And especially with that last move that they made, again, Heroes is a lot about making smart decisions. Letting things go and thinking, okay, what can I get away with? And they knew they had the escape potential, and they knew they could play with the vision. So that was a very, very impactful move on their part, and nearly netted them a keep there. Only putting half the damage on would have already been enough, but it only worked because of the vision and because they knew with our tools we can move away. Talking about tools, Remabola, I feel, even had an opportunity here to maybe go for a mosh pit. I mean, he didn't, of course, know how many people were there, but that could have backfired for Method pretty quickly.
Method, kind of preying on how Trick Esports plays as a unit of 5, trying to force these 5 to look at the camps pushing. And we're going to have another fight as Cocoon comes out on Malfurion. Remember to get out of the power slide. Savo hitting, Arcaner is low. Make delivers a final blow. Schwimpy attempting to retreat here. Does he have the jet propulsion? Ooh, big entomb. And Rimmer has a power slide mosh pit available.
Body and Tomb, and they're starting to go in. Schwimpy is low, and he goes down as Market delivers once again on 16. As mentioned before, he has now taken the Thunderstorm as well, so you get the extra 8% slow for each target. You, of course, have to always change between targets, but that's pretty easy when you have Echoed Corruption on 1 because of that extra charge on the Chain Lightning.
Gives you really nice chase, and Trick Esport needed chase there, so good pickup there from Thrall. And Trick turns around and grabs the boss. Now, Karazim doing his best to get a couple shots here in the middle. Just trying to take some shots away from Trick Esport, so Method can get a decent spot there as they put some damage on the turret.
Phoenix, by the way, Crosby, really putting the work in here. We've been talking about how most Phoenix players in the last week have struggled to get significant damage onto the board. But right now, Crosby is sitting at 41,000, and the next highest hero in damage is Blaze, interestingly enough, on 25k, followed by Greymane and by Thrall. So very nice play here by Phoenix, and Crosby makes sure that he stays alive, plays very safe around the hero, but with the build that he's using in this game, he's really working the damage in around the slows that are provided by Leoric, by Alex, and of course also Maka on a straw.
And now we find Method in a slight disadvantage. Trick Esport grabbing the temple here to the south, already sieging upon that keep, with that boss finally getting cleared up. With Leoric being on the top though, Method is looking to aim to force a fight here soon. We're gonna maybe need Leo to come down and fight.
I mean, think how frustrating the situation currently is for Method with a keep at the top lane just being so low on HP. If that would have fallen, then they would have a big macro advantage already over Trick, but that's not the case. And now that we have the bottom temple activated, Method takes control. But Trick is absolutely happy to fight here, so they're looking for an engage. They're looking for an opportunity. Already the tether attempt, but well done by Alex, going into the Wraith Walk and stopping it here. Going for Shrimpy. Not dropping an Entomb just yet, but claiming the temple, and that is heavy pressure against the bottom lane keep of Method. It could drop it if they can stay long enough, but Rema is already forced off the temple itself.
And Make finishes Thunderstorm here. Should be able to keep poking his opponent, making it slow. Maybe Method will have to force a fight, and they do force it. They jump on Leo. Make drops down the Earthquake. Immediately a bunker is there to answer. Cocoon comes out on Malfurion. Make trying to break him out so he can escape from the fight, but big knockup comes in from Arcaner.
Yeah, Grandpa Cat at this point needs to be cautious, and here comes Maiev once again. Aethero actually goes in, and that was way too deep. At this point, he's just all alone, and he goes down. Nice ice block from Grandpa Cat, but how... Oh, the four-man mosh! I was just about to say, how long can he keep himself alive? But then it's Rema Bowler with the mosh of the ages here, getting 4 heroes, and that results in 2 kills shortly after. Great play here by Tricked, and Method just a bit too greedy. Aethero moving in with Maiev and landing in 4 heroes, getting blown up immediately, and now Trick can easily go for the bottom keep without even using the temple for it.
Method getting Tricked there. As this gets killed completely. 30 seconds for Kerosene to be up. 35, 40 seconds actually.
They're actually going for?
Yeah, they can do it. What's Arcaner and Shwimpy gonna do here?
Yeah.
Please. A new rack, not gonna be enough. Sounds comes out. Arcaner by himself. Power slide in. Boom. There he goes. Shwimpy doing his best to hold off the 5 that are pushing in. But there's still 10 seconds for Maev's even on the field.
And they're just ignoring him at this point. Crosby needs to be a little bit careful, but he should still have everything available for himself. Now we have Maiev back, but the core is down to 40%. The defense is still on, but that's just simply not gonna be enough. Tricked Esports goes in and they take game number 1 against Method. They take the lead in the best of 5.
A close game, but a clutch mosh pit towards the end there to set up Tricked Esports for a 1-team fight, which allowed them to eventually push down that bottom lane and get the win. But I'm excited here for the rest of this series, because it looks like both teams are kind of firing on all cylinders today. Aethero maybe overstepping a little bit down there in the bottom left. You see the anxious engage he was going for, but still, Tricked Esports pulling it out.
Yeah, definitely, and I mean, great play here by Crosby too. His build was slightly different than what we've seen so far in HGC Europe, but he put the numbers on the board, he got the kills. Mako, of course, with his Thrall as well, supplying a lot of those slows here, and job well done. That was really impactful what we saw there, and then a quick decision to go for keep and core immediately with the high death timers. They could make that work. It was only Shrimpy and Anubarak there. A good Entomb comes out, Silence comes in, and that's the end of Anubarak, and all of a sudden there's only Blaze left, and he just doesn't have what it takes.